Now, I mentioned Durham, North Carolina, Pauli, where she lived. I went to college in Durham, North Carolina. At North Carolina College for Durham, North Carolina College at Durham at the time, North Carolina Central University. And Pauli Murray went to what high school? Hillside High School. I did my student teaching at Hillside High School. So I kept coming across these kind of
You're just
coincidences,
growing.
synchronicities, and I thought, I'm
You're
supposed to be
wild.
learning more and teaching more
Yes.
about Pauli Murray. So I
This
couldn't
little,
help but be excited about this.
you're just a little vampire. A little vampire bat coming at me.
Um, Now the rest of you are supposed to be muted. So the other reason I want to do this is not just so you will know the fantastic things about Pauli Murray, even though someone said that Pauli Murray is such a gift for our time because she's a genius in the service of justice. And you'll see this as you go along. But we're not going to read about Pauli Murray and all the fantastic things she did just to have information in our heads. Information is wonderful, and I love information. I'm a lifelong learner. But to me, the most valuable information is information that helps you, that gives you some insights, that you get some wisdom, and then you do something with the information. You grow yourself, you share that information with some other people. It encourages you to then take on and do some activities. And if we were studying, as we're studying about Pauli Murray, then we might decide to get involved in justice work. So I wanted again to say that is the framework for this series, information, not just for the sake of information, but to help us see how it informs us and encourages us to be about change and social justice change. Now, the other thing about this series and how I would like to do it is kind of like jazz. Now, I'm not a musician and I don't really play anything. I tried to play the saxophone in high school, God bless me. But what I really want to say about the way I see this as a jazz discussion is that I have a part, and each of you, you brought your instruments, your voices, your minds, and you have a part. And so we're going to come together, and I will have a part and you will have a part. There will be some improvisation. You will be sharing, and this will all be the better, the what shall we say, the better composition, because we're all playing our various instruments and sharing. I hope I have a few young people on. I'm going to be calling and asking later for some input from some of our younger people, because unfortunately, many times we're doing these programs and it's all of us who are a little bit older and we're not sharing as much. I know it's difficult, but what I'd like to ask for you the next time, for the next part of this series, is if you could invite somebody, maybe a younger person that you know, who might be there with you or be seeing this series from wherever, because Pauli Murray is a woman for all ages of people. As you read about her life, it's so encouraging to people of all ages. And the memoir itself reads like a novel. Someone said to me, I have to give her credit for that. So, one, I think I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm not an academic. I am a lifelong learner, a librarian, a person who's done social justice work. I work from several organizations, the National Council of Elders primarily. One, there are all these synchronicities with Pauli Murray and her life and where she lives and the age of my mom. And so I think I'm coming to you just as a lifelong learner and someone who wants to be participating in this with you. So please accept me like that. I am not the writer, Patricia Bell Scott, who wrote this fabulous book. I am just a lover of Pauli Murray. So we're going to talk a few more minutes about Pauli Murray's younger life because the series is divided. Tonight's session takes more time in me explaining a few things about why I chose to do this and how we're going to do it. But there are 4 sessions. And so the next time, don't be upset that this time is not in depth about Pauli. You're going to have some breakout sessions later and share some more things that you might want to know about Pauli Murray and how you might like to be involved in this series. But tonight was primarily an introduction, an overview, some breakout rooms, some music. There's music and there's poetry and general conversation. So I'm hoping you'll accept this format. So before we go any farther, I'd like to read a poem for you that again speaks to why we're doing this series and what's so important about Pauli Murray. This poem is called Calling All Grandmothers. Do you know this poem? By Alice Walker. Calling All Grandmothers. We have to live differently or we will die in the same old ways. Therefore, I call on all grandmothers everywhere on the planet to rise and take your place in the leadership of the world. Come out of the kitchen, out of the fields. Come out of the beauty parlors, out of the television. Step forward and assume the role for which you were created to lead humanity to health, happiness, and sanity. I call on all the grandmothers of earth and every person who possesses the grandmother spirit of respect for life and for the protection of the young, for the protection of the young to rise and lead. The life of our species depends on it. And I call on all men of earth to gracefully and gratefully stand aside and let us do this. Calling All Grandmothers by Alice Walker. That was another reason that I wanted to use poetry and to help explain why I think it's so important when we're learning to share. And that we, those of you that I see and those of you that I cannot see who are the grandmother spirit, I ask you to think about this as a call that you have to share and to learn about Pauli Murray. Now, let's get into a few minutes about Pauli Murray's younger life. And those of you who want to share with me can raise your hands. I think Dominique has that feature ready. We're going to talk for a few minutes about Pauli Murray's early life, coming to North Carolina from Baltimore and growing up, what kind of life she had in Durham, perhaps something about her education, going to school in Durham, and how she spent her days. So let me say a few things and then stop and see if some of you want to share about Pauli Murray's younger days in Durham. As we said, Pauli went to Durham when she was 3, and she lived with her grandparents and her aunts. What kind of life do you think she might have had in that age of 1914? 1914 in Durham, North Carolina, growing up. I want you to let your minds go and think about that time. As I was reading about Pauli Murray, I was reading about how she ran about and walked about in the neighborhood and how she had a certain amount of freedom to go places because it was a safe environment as she felt and as her aunt felt for her. And she walked a lot from one place to another. In school, she was an excellent student. She started actually learn to read very early because her aunt Pauline had to take her to school with her. Her aunt Pauline was a school teacher, and she took Pauli with her to school in the beginning. And Pauline didn't know that Pauli could actually read. She was sitting listening at school to the other children, and she learned to read. and was an excellent student. Um, she learned a variety of subjects, but like many of us, she was interested in what she was interested in. And so she performed well in those things that she was interested in. And again, like many smart, energetic young people, she could be a little difficult from time to time. And she thought what she thought and thought she had a right to say what she thought. So I'm going to stop now and see who's raised their hand and would like to share something about Pauli Murray's early education, or something that you think is important. Anything that you'd like to share about her life as a student or in the community, or up to, say, the age of 16 in Durham.
Yes, I see Betty Lane's hand. Okay. Betty, you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi, I wanted to say that one of the things that really impressed me is that even from a quite young child of 4 or 5 years old, she used to read to her grandfather. She read him the paper every day because he had gone blind from his injuries while fighting for the North in the Civil War.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That is very important. And that is a thing, that is something that we can do with our young people too, helping them to get that lifelong learning and letting them read and reading to us. That's not quite as in style as much as it used to be when I was growing up. Is there someone else who'd like to share about Pauli and her early life?
Anyone else like to share? If so, you can unmute yourself and speak. I don't see anyone else.
Hi, I'm Charlene. So I haven't, I only know about Pauli Murray in her later years because I haven't had a chance to read the book yet. But here in Baltimore, we took an oath to always say when we're talking about Pauli Murray, that, and I know that it's been said here, but I have to say it again, that she was born here in Baltimore, and we do claim her.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much. We enjoy that too. We let you have her. We let you have her. We all can claim Pauli and the wonderful things about her life. Oh, what, anyone else want to share about Pauli's early life in Durham, North Carolina?
Cynthia Pease, you can unmute yourself.
No, thank you. I'm reading the book now, and I was just amazed by the amount of history about her family that she knew, and the number of relatives that she had, that she had a very close relationship with. So that was fascinating to me, coming from a very small family and hardly any relatives. I think that might have sustained her during a lot of troubled times.
Thank you for sharing. There's another book that Pauli Murray wrote. And if I can get the full screen back, I'll show you my copy. I don't know if many of you know that she wrote a book specifically about her family called Proud Shoes. Proud Shoes, the story of an American family. I think you'll really enjoy this one. She wrote it before she wrote Song in a Weary Throat. And it goes back and tells all the story for a couple of generations of the Fitzgeralds. And so I highly recommend that. It's a call, we'll put it in the chat too. Proud Shoes, the story of an American family. How many of you thought, or anything that you've read about Pauli, what a fantastic writer she is? Just very interesting, flowing writing. That's a challenge and an encouragement to all of us who might want to write something about our families. And that's something else I would like to suggest for us in terms of our young people, talking to them and encouraging them to talk to people of older generations and learn more about the stories. We don't have to be writers like Pauli Murray. We just start from where we are with basic questions and information and sharing so that they can learn more about us. And the other thing that we'll get into in future sessions, there are a number of books about Pauli Murray, but this one, in terms of some letters, Pauli Murray and Caroline Ware 40 years of letters in black and white. And they had this ongoing conversation and shared these letters that are fantastic to read. So those are some of the resources that I will be using about Pauli Murray. And let me read to you just the poem that we get the title Song in a Weary Throat from. You know, Pauli wrote this whole book, Dark Testament, which is a dark testament and other poems. And she was a very accomplished poet. And she wrote this poem that says, let me see if I can read. Hope is a crushed stalk between clenched fingers. Hope is a bird's wing broken by a stone. Hope is a word in a tuneless ditty, a word whispered with the wind, a dream of 40 acres and a mule, a cabin of one's own and a moment to rest, a name and place for one's children and children's children at last. Hope is a song in a weary throat. And that comes from her Dark Testament and other poems. So we're going to take you in a few minutes into some breakout rooms. And
This is
allow
Sally
you-
Craig Hubert. I had my hand raised.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I just wanted to relate to one of the other speakers who said claim Baltimore. I too was born in Baltimore, but at age 1 moved to Asheville, North Carolina. So I've already learned that Pauli Murray's journey and mine are a little bit parallel.
Mhm.
Not very, but thank you for telling us about her early life.
That's all right. We can all claim Pauli Murray.
Yes.
And I think we're going to see as we go along that there are a lot of things that we would like to acknowledge about her and to see if we can find within ourselves some of the kinds of encouragement that she had. There's another statement. As I said, we're going to prepare to go in some breakout rooms. And in our breakout rooms, we can talk a little bit more. I'd like for you to especially talk about, say, the first 16 years of Pauli's life, anything that you know that you want to share in there, or questions you have, or lessons that you think that she may give to us in terms of our young people today that we could share with young people. So that's the question for the breakout rooms that we're going to go into. But I had a statement that I wanted to read, if I can, from the author of from the person who introduced Song in a Weary Throat, Patricia Bell Scott. She said, and I agree with her, that Song in a Weary Throat by Pauli Murray is a book to be nourished by her story, imbued with her passion, inspired by her example, and emboldened by her courage, so that each of us may be challenged and supported to be the ones we have been waiting for. That's my addition. As the poet and activist June Jordan called us to be freedom fighters, to be people committed to building a just society. And that's one of the reasons we're, excuse me, that we're learning about Pauli Murray, freedom fighter, Pauli Murray, lawyer, Pauli Murray, teacher in law schools, Pauli Murray, just fantastic woman of social justice change, and later in her life, Pauli Murray, the priest. So that's my general outline for tonight.
I see,
Dominique,
yes, I see Margaret McCann's hand raised.
we will have it. Margaret.
Okay, feel free to unmute yourself, Margaret. You're muted. Okay.
There we go. Okay. Yes. For those of you who do not know, Pauli Murray's childhood home in Durham is being renovated and being turned into the Pauli Murray Center for History and Social Justice. So you can go to the paulymurraycenter.com website and find out all about it.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. We're going to talk about that some more, and we're going to have some resources online. That's another way that you can participate in this series. Any information that you have that you want to share with everyone, you can send it to my email if you'd like. And I have a very easy email address. It's the word email at aljosie.com. And Aljosie is on the screen, ALJOSIE. So my email address is email@aljosie.com. You can send me information about things like that, or comments or other resources that you would like to share about Pauli Murray. And this will make our jazz composition even richer. So at the end, I'll give you all kinds of acknowledgement about your instrument, your part that you played in this. So we are going to go now into some breakout rooms for 15 minutes and have a chance to discuss in our smaller groups about Pauli Murray. And again, primarily, I would like for you to look at the first 16 years of her in high school, anything that you can share with other people about her life growing up, any characteristics she had that you think we need to raise as we come back. In our breakout rooms, would one of you please be the leader and get us started, and one of you be the reporter and come back and tell us what you found out in your breakout rooms. So are we going to have our song before? Yes, let's have our song before we go into the breakout rooms. Listen to this song. We're all muted, and so we can sing. So here we go, Dominique. Play our song leading us into the breakout room.
Okay.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this strength that I have, this strength that I have, this strength that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this love that I have, this love that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This love that I have. Oh, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this love that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Singing, the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this pride that I have, this pride that I have, this pride that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This pride that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this pride that I have, yeah, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this peace that I have, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give me my peace that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. Won't you sing about peace? This peace that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. All this joy that I have, this joy that I have, this joy that I have. Oh, yeah, now, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away.
Thank you. Are we ready to go into our breakout rooms, Dominique?
Yes.
Okay, get us a sign so we can go.
Okay.
Be there for 15 minutes and then I'll see you back. Someone please lead and someone be ready to share. This is us making our music together.
Awesome. If you all would please accept the button that's in front of your screen. And then Meg and Terry, do you all see a button in front of your screen? Do you know how to unmute yourself? You just press it. Hey. Can you hear me or is your computer frozen? I think your computer's frozen. They're
Button
gonna.
to join. But I came,
What do you say, Meg?
so if the groups were set up,
Okay, sure.
Oh.
All right, there you are. You should have a button now, even though your bandwidth is low, it says, but you should see it. And then Terry. Perfect. Welcome back. Everyone's coming back in.
All right. Here we are back at 7:56. So we're gonna move and take all of this time for our sharing back in our group session. That gives us probably about 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes for this sharing.
If you all wouldn't mind muting yourselves.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
So Dominique, we won't play our song during the session. We'll let our song play at the very end as we're leaving, and we'll take all of our time with our reporting back from our breakout. If I have just like a minute at the end.
Sure.
Okay, how many breakout rooms did we have?
We had 10, and they are
Wow.
out in groups of 4 to 5 people, approximately.
Gee.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Well, let's see if we can hear from some of them. We
Okay.
probably can't hear from all of them, but let's hear from as many of them as we can. They're numbered from 1 to 10. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first room, and this is just for the group leader, you'll know your name, Annie Jacobs, Elizabeth Biddle, Maria, Paula Jackson, and Sharon McWhorter. Whoever's the group leader, please unmute yourself and we'd love to hear your feedback.
Well, we naughtily neglected to choose a leader and a recorder. Oh, so,
That's okay. Well, just give us one thought from your, one idea, or one comment from your group.
I will say, and other members can correct me, that in our group, the pretty universal reality was that we all knew about Pauli Murray because of her priesthood, and many of us because of her brilliant legal career before her priesthood. But we knew little more about her, and we signed up for this because we wanted to learn.
Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And as we move on to group 2, just know that, of course, we're going to be, as she already stated, building every week on top of what we learned the week prior. So hopefully you all will be continuing to learn new things today in addition to the coming weeks. So in room 2, we have Averin Payne, Hilton Swing, Margaret McCann, Nina Swim Wright, and Sharmalir Douglas. Let us not all speak up at once. Any of you can speak, even if you didn't choose a group leader from that group.
I'll speak for our group. I will share just what my last ending thought was, just my concern about Pauli Murray's image being, or her narrative being co-opted by different people for their own political, social gains. She has left us with a tremendous, with tremendous first accounts of her life. And it makes me think about Nikki Giovanni when she says that in her poem, Nikki Rosa, about if I don't tell my story, others will leave it to them and they'll have it as if I was, you know, a miserable child, so to speak. And so what I worry about with Pauli Murray is that people will take parts of her story and make it something that it wasn't. And I think we do that with different groups of people, and particularly women and Black women. So I hope that her story remains her story. She wrote it, she told it. We don't have to reinvent it and stretch it.
Very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, in room 3, we have Cynthia Pease, Deb Cooper, Lauren Kay, and then Trina.
Hi, yes, we just reflected on some of the events of Pauli's childhood, and especially after her mother died, and then her father was institutionalized, and his really violent death, and some of the secret keeping in the family when she has the encounter with her siblings who thought that she was a cousin, and so there's secret keeping among them, and also just some of the dynamics of going back and forth between the Jim Crow South and the North, and the situation when she was in the train station watching the luggage, and this group of white men were trying to discern whether she was a white child or a Black child, because that would dictate what they were going to do, right? And so I grew up in the South, and I talked a little bit about how some of those things are actually still consistently happening now, or consistent with my childhood. And lastly, we talked about how her being reared by her Aunt Pauline, and some of the permissiveness of her Aunt Pauline, and also her ability to deal with the consequences of her actions as a child and the jobs that she held, leans into some of the narrative about, and she talks about this a little later in the book, of what the language we would use now is like gender queer, of some of the gender queerness of even her raising, right? Of some of the things that would not have been permitted of many girls at that time, she was able to do.
Thank you, very reflective. Thank you for sharing that. In room 4, we have Julie Plaiston, Ruth Scott, Sandra Montez, and the Reverend Liz Steinhauser.
Hi, everybody. This is Liz reporting back from our team. We had a great team. We recognized what we did and didn't know about the early life of Pauli Murray, and spoke a little bit about that, but also spoke about what brought us to this group tonight. And I would say that the amazing things about our group were we represented 4 really different places: Texas Union Theological Seminary, Sitka, Alaska, Boston, and North Carolina, and kind of came to this group for different reasons, looking for heroes, inspired by music and that connecting to Pauli Murray, looking for racial reconciliation. I was definitely left with some real curiosity about her early life. I think we all were. And in particular, we knew just a little bit about her parents, who we know died while she was young. And I was curious to learn more about them, even though she was raised by other relatives. So I came looking myself for heroes, and I found them already in my small group. So that's very exciting.
Very exciting. Thank you for sharing that. In room 5, we have Daphne Jackson, Peggy Curlin, and Sally Craig Huber.
we too did not designate who was going to speak, and none of us have read any of the books yet. So we rambled a little bit and basically put some questions on the table, including why Pauli Murray was chosen for this session. What are our goals and objectives here? Why she moved to North Carolina at such an early age? What was her inspiration for her poetry and her early writings, and what do we know about that background? And other than that, we just introduced ourselves and told a little bit about where we came from and how we got here.
Thank you for sharing.
Anybody else want to add to that?
That's exactly what I was going to ask. If not, I want those questions, if you don't mind.
Yes.
However, you should send them to me, because we will be addressing those. As we said, we're going to be building. Okay, so thank you. Okay, in room 6, we have Andrea McMillan, Betty Lane, Charlene Phipps, and Beth Reed.
Hi, we had a mix in our group of reasons for coming to learn more about Pauli Murray. 3 out of 4 of us have not done reading yet, but one person had done beaucoup. So some of the things that got lifted up were what seemed like a large amount of freedom in her childhood, the freedom to dress the way she wanted, except when it was Sunday for church.
Yes.
So this mix of freedom and a discipline. We had the notion lifted up of a person aware of her white and Black and Native ancestors and owning that together as an American story. Charlene lifted up a quote of the recognizing the dignity and the degradation of our ancestors, that both of these items, both these aspects, Pauli Murray thought she needed, and that they're needed now too. We also had the comment, there's 2 clergy women in our group looking to learn more about her from that point of view. One person in our group knew all about her, and I'm the flip. I've only learned about her recently, and so what is, where are the big gaps that I don't know about her? And so I'm.
Uh-oh. It seems it froze. I'll give her just a moment.
I'll just speak.
Thank you.
We didn't know that we were supposed to, at least I had to step away, but we
Okay.
didn't know we were supposed to designate a leader. But we had a very lively conversation. Some people knew about Pauli Murray, some people didn't. And we had a person in our group who lives in Durham and has talked about a museum of her house, which I didn't know existed. And
Yes.
hopefully we'll get a chance to visit that at some point. But certainly well known by some people and not well known by others.
Right.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that. The computer froze here for a second, but thank you, Larita. I see that in your group was Miriam, Susan, and Teresa. So thank you for sharing that. In group 8, we have Claudia Fields, Elizabeth Scarborough, Erica R., Meg Smith, and Sarah McDonald.
I think I was the designated recorder, and I think our group was really trying to settle into learning more. Most of us, or at least 3 of the 4 or 5, have not gotten the book yet, trying to get a hold of it. have read some things online. The New Yorker article is a 2017 is a great summary that I managed to read. One of our members, Meg, has read Proud Shoes and really raved about that was a great book. And she related one story about Pauli getting an award from a gentleman named James Carr, who apparently was a notorious racist. And I guess Carborough, North Carolina is named for that. And just the fact that I guess when she wrote about this, she did not write about him being really an awful person of his time, really a dreadful person. So, and I find that it's sort of in her reading about her that she skips over a lot of things, at least when she's writing about herself. And that may be a theme that we see more of. But I think we were all just settling in, trying to get more information. And thankfully, we had at least one person who'd read a fair amount about her.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. In room 9, we have Bonnie Stevenson, Henrietta Williams, and Susan Lang.
I got chosen to speak to this for this group. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And 2 of the 3 of us actually had the privilege of getting to know her very briefly, have conversations with her. Mm-hmm. One had her visit in her seminary. I was the only one who's read the book, and so I was the only one that knew a little bit about her early life. And the thing that struck us all about Pauli is how she could integrate everything, and that one would expect, having been removed from her siblings at such a young age and having such little contact with them as a small child, that would have had a negative effect on her life, but apparently it didn't. And the other thing is how closely she paid attention to everything. I commented about in the book, talking about her going to school because there wasn't any place for her to be while her aunt was teaching. And that she just picked up everything, and that was quite acceptable. Mm-hmm. That she was able to absorb what was going around her and respond appropriately.
Thank you for sharing that. And in the very beginning, Henrietta, and maybe it was just my computer, but you said that someone had the privilege of doing or something.
2 of us had actually spent some time with her. One, I got to meet her when I was in seminary. She was good friends with my advisor. And another person in the group, her husband worked with her as an attorney or had some contract, so she was a guest in their home on several occasions.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And then the last group is Ayana, Joy Lucas, Nancy, and Terry.
I'll speak. We didn't elect a leader or a reporter, and we only saw the 3 of us. And if there was a 4th person, we're sorry we didn't see or hear you. Evidently, there wasn't a good connection there. But one thing, and we all agreed that we were here to learn more about Pauli Murray. We've all read various things. Some of us have the book and haven't read it. One of us has the book and has started reading it, and she actually read us a couple of paragraphs from an earlier chapter, and we found out a couple of things. But one thing that struck me as having a mother from North Carolina who was an orphan, her parents died, and she talked to our family about how she grew up very free. There was almost complete freedom for her. She was adored and petted because she was orphan. Her father and mother had died. She was raised by aunts. But, and so all of the things that made Pauli different, starting from when she was a little child, it doesn't seem like they were squashed. And that had to be very freeing and encouraging for her, the business of her education and all of that. It just seems like it set her up for the road that she ended up traveling. We read that her mother had wanted to be a nurse. She was someone who was a caregiver. And obviously, Pauli Murray inherited that instinct from her as she ended up in the priesthood years later. So we're looking forward to the rest of this series.
Thank you for that. That is all 10 groups. I just wanted to add something that someone said earlier I found so fascinating. It's interesting to me how, we've all dealt certain cards in life, and then we can choose to use those as fuel or not. And obviously there are other contributing influences, as Joy just stated, but that really, really struck me in terms of the devastation of learning about her parents and other tragedies that happened, but yet she still seemed to find her path. And so I definitely think that's worthy of future conversation as we delve into this. And we do encourage you all to invite others as we begin to build on this conversation, because I think that it's going to be quite transformative. And so those were the 10 groups. And so I'll turn it back to our spiritual teacher, Ms. Harding.
Well, thank you very much. I'm your servant leader. So I thank you all for being here, for being in this gathering about Pauli Murray, fantastic lawyer, poet, writer, teacher, social justice activist, and priest. We will continue this next Tuesday. We will look at the chat. I will accept any emails and look at them that you have, and we will try to keep this as interesting and focused on the things that you want to learn. And I just thank you very much for your presence here tonight. And that's all I will say for tonight. We will end this session listening to This Little Light of Mine, because again, that is very much the spirit that I want to bring to this whole series, that we're learning, that we're taking our own light and we're letting it shine. So see you next Tuesday, and I encourage you to invite somebody to come along with you. Thank you so very much. Peace.
Thank you. And for those who are asking, yes, it will be recorded. So the question that somebody asked was, can they still invite some people to join who were not here this session? They can. It's going to be recorded today and for the future sessions as well. So that will be sent out to all of you. So certainly invite the people that you're interested in inviting.
Yes. And thank you for helping to make music.
Excuse me, I will be using the same link address.
Can you repeat that?
We'll be using the same link Zoom address.
Great question. Yes, you will. It's the same Zoom link that you register for one time. So you don't have to register 4 different times. And if anything changes in that regards, then you will know, because I will send out the email with the recording and any additional things that you need to know.
So here we go. Let's let our light shine. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dominique.
Good night.
My pleasure.
Thanks, everyone. Peace.
Oh,
let it shine. Lord, it may.
There you go. Oh my. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good
See you next
night.
week, I hope. Thank you so much, Dominique. You were fantastic.
My pleasure. Thank you all. Have a good evening, everyone. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
5 more people. Margaret and Peggy. Okay. All right, let me stop.